Hey everybody, Scotty G here from Listen Up. Today we're going to do one of the things that I love to do the most, and that's set up a turntable. Today's turntable feature is the VPI Avenger. Yeah, a little background on VPI. They were founded by Harry Weisfeld. His son Matt now runs the company. Hello, Matt. Matt's a good friend of all of ours. And they were founded in 1978. So this company is about 46 years old. And for that entire timeline, they've been building some of the best turntables that you can buy. Prices range anywhere from just around $2,000 for their Cliffwood to above $100,000 for some custom stuff that they do. This particular table today comes in about $12,500 to $14,500, depending how you configure it. This is the VPI Avenger with the 12-inch gimbal tone arm. The other choice is called a unipivot. Personal preferences, I really dig the gimbal. They're a little bit easier to set up, certainly easier for the end user to use. So let's dive into this thing. So this is the chassis. The chassis has three basically posts on it. You mount a tone arm to these posts, so in theory you could mount 3 tone arms on this turntable. It is acrylic, aluminum, and acrylic with some acoustically absorbent material sandwiched in between. So this chassis and its feet are all designed to eliminate as much vibration from the table as you can from its surroundings. The platter itself comes in at a whopping 20 pounds. This is 20 pounds of solid aluminum. This thing's a monster. Comes out of the box with a little tape on the bottom. You got to pull that aside. And then there's a rubber cap that covers this inverted bearing. So the first thing we want to do is put this platter carefully There you go. So if you do it right, it goes on real gentle. This is what we start off with. Pretty beastly if you ask me. This is a fun table. This is the Tonearm mount here. This goes over one of these posts. We're going to put it on this back side here. Let's see, we need a tool here, so let me jump off camera here real quick. This thing comes with pretty much everything you need to set it up other than a cartridge. So in the bag, you'll need this for setting up a unipivot. And then we'll need these tools for loosening the back end of this guy. So we're gonna loosen this up a little bit. There we go. There we go. Perfect. There you go. So we can just leave that kind of loose for now. This is my most favorite 3D printed 12-inch gimbal Tonearm that is made in-house by VPI. You know, when you look at turntables, you'll see different Tonearm links. And the advantage to the longer Tonearm is it tends to do a better job of keeping a consistent arc as it tracks from the outside of the record to the inside of the record. You know, a shorter Tonearm has more of an arc to it, so it's ideal to have these longer Tonearms when possible. And this guy, there we go. So it's threaded on the back, and then there's a post in the front. So as we secure this thing onto the Tonearm base, we screw this down, make sure the post goes up through the Tonearm rest part of this plate. And we're gonna get this down to a manageable size here. And then part of the setup, as we go further with the turntable setup, is determining exactly where this pivot point needs to live in relationship to the platter and the cartridge that we install on it. That is called a vertical tracking angle in regards to the Tonearm. It's specific to the stylus rake angle of the cartridge. I usually use a microscope to do that setup. I'm not going to do that today just to kind of keep things rolling. But if you were to buy one of these and we were to set these up for you in your house, I would probably want to do it with my microscope. So let's get this roughly in place. This jig comes with the VPI turntables. This is an awesome piece of equipment. And we use this to help determine where this guy wants to live. So let's see here. We want this 0.2. Put this up here just a sec. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so this is where we want this guy to live at. So we're going to lock this in place. Cool thing about these turntables is you can literally put anyone's Tonearm on this turntable. So in this case, this is the 12-inch 3D printed gimbal Tonearm. If you had a Tonearm from another manufacturer, you would get these plates from VPI. And then this distance of Tonearm to of the pivot point back here is all calculated. You know, we used protractors and things like that to do that with, but the VPI guys are real easy to do. So this guy's pretty much ready to go here. So we'll do some basic lockdowns here. This wire here is for setting up what's called anti-skate. You know, everyone has different feelings on anti-skate. When I'm doing VPI turntables, I generally don't use the anti-skate. Some people do. That's why they give you that feature. For the purposes of this setup, we're not going to use it. So I'm just going to leave this aside for now. In the bag of tricks was this beautiful Counterweight. This guy lives off the back of here. There we go. There is a forward and a backwards to this. So you want to make sure when you put this on that the side that's knurled out on the inside is what goes towards the pivot point here. And then there's a little screw, hex wrench in here for locking this gently in place. We may need to make adjustments to this as we install and set up our cartridge. There's a knob back here that I can twist to allow me to move this forward and backward. And that we'll use for setting up tracking force on our cartridge. So we'll then again use the Tonearm jig for adjusting the drop point of my cartridge. If you look at this jig, you'll see there's a grid on it. There's a dot in the middle of that grid. The diamond on the end of the cantilever you want to have sitting in that dot. And then you want to view it from this way to make sure that that cantilever is aligned with the lines on the grid. Those adjustments are really important when setting up a cartridge on a turntable. You know, a lot of people can set these up on their own. If you can't, we can set these up for you, so don't sweat it. Let's see, so I think we're good here. Let's pause for a second. Let me grab my cartridge and we'll finish up the setup. Okay, so now we got the heavy lifting out of the way. It's time to put a cartridge on here. Anytime I'm doing any kind of turntable setup with cartridges, especially some of the more expensive ones, I tend to want to get rid of my jewelry. You know, no rings, no bracelets, nothing that can short sleeves up, you know, roll my sleeves up. Make sure there's nothing that can catch on anything. The cartridge we're going to put on this turntable is a new one from a company called EBI. This is a company out of India, and the cartridge is called a Khumar. I had a chance to evaluate one of these 2 weeks ago and was pleasantly blown away. Absolutely stunning cartridge. Features a boron cantilever and a Shibata stylus. So the stylus rake angle with this cartridge is real critical. You want to set it up, you want to listen to it, you know, make some adjustments. This is easy to make adjustments on. Make sure you get that cartridge just dialed in perfectly. It's a wood body cartridge, just has a lot of soul to it. It's really fun to listen to. I found myself grabbing album after album after album and just seeing what else I could play to check it out. So excited to put this one on the turntable. The motor over here, this guy comes with a belt. So we want to take this motor, and I've moved this table around to make it a little more accessible from the front end. The motor for the VPI turntables generally come in their own separate component. So it's away from the turntable, no way for any vibrations of the motor to affect what's going on here in the turntable. One of the cool things about the VPI Avenger and VPI turntables as a whole is there are a number of things you can do after your purchase to upgrade them. You know, you can, on this guy, take these feet off. These are awesome isolation feet, you know, leveling. You can put on what are called the VPI Avenger reference feet. You can buy what's called a periphery, which sits on the outside of the record, compresses the record down against the record groove. You can, in place of the belt drive, do what's called a rim drive. You can do a magnetic platter. A lot of cool things you can do to really take this table and bump it up to the next level up or the next level up. Same thing with the prime tables, you know, the prime scout. There's a lot of ways you can upgrade those. So if you have a VPI and you got an itch to make it sound better, give us a call and we can let you know what you can do to, you know, to add a little bit more horsepower to it. So this motor is going to live over here to the side, and this is the belt that goes around the top pulley for 33. This can be tricky sometimes to put on there, but there we go. So speed adjustment on this is done by repositioning the belt. So the small pulley is 33, larger pulley is 45. 45 is bigger than 33, so that makes sense. Belt driven, that part's ready to go. Again, this was the jig that came with it. You position this jig over the spindle, and then the cleat of this jig lives right at the base of the tone arm. So that's how we got this piece put in place properly. We'll revisit this again in a second. Wonderful record weight. You know, this is something you want to use all the time. So let's go ahead and unbox this Ebi Khumar and make some music. so VPI comes with its own set of tools, but you will need a screwdriver. Maybe not. There we go. It's beautiful packaging that comes with the Khumar cartridges. You know, when you buy cartridges of this price point, you know, it's nice to see the packaging falls in line with the quality of the cartridge. And you want to be sure when removing the cartridge from the base here that you be very, very careful. Cartridges, if you're not careful, are easily damaged, and the repair can oftentimes be quite expensive, so you want to be careful. Remain focused. Okay, so we're good to go. We want to keep these screws because we're going to use these screws. Let's see whether they work. No, those are not going to work. So we're going to put these back in the box with this guy. Keep all this together in case you want to rebox this, maybe sell it and upgrade you to an even better cartridge. And then we're going to use the screws that came with the VPI turntable. Comes with an assortment of screws. Remember to always put the thumb lift on first. I've done turntable setups where I've got it all said and done and then realized I had not put the thumb lift on there. So we want to do that first. There are two links of screws that come with the VPI tone arm. You'll, on this case, want to use the shorter of the two with the silent guard on the cartridge. You want to, I always do the outside screw first, so I'm going to put this in here, put this there. I prefer to put the cartridge on the end of the tone arm first. There we go. So it's loosely attached on there. Status guard fell off, so it's good to always be careful when you're doing this again. Put this back on here, just to be safe. No, it doesn't want to live on there now to put the screw in there. So status guard goes off. With the outside screw in, I can gently tilt this thing my way. Now let's keep a little flashlight in my pocket, and then I can see that I have a white wire on the top right. We'll secure that one first. It's a little stiff. I'm going to grab another tool here real quick. All right, it's always good to have a toolbox full of the appropriate tools for setting up a turntable. In this case, I want the hemostats and a low-powered flashlight. All right, so hemostats, you can gently grab the end of these Litz wires. You need more horsepower. All right. Oh yeah, I can see everything now. So let's try this again. We're gonna go here. There we go. Took a little bit of work, but we got that one on there. Again, you want to be careful of that cantilever that's sitting below the cartridge. I usually go from the outside in, so top right, bottom right. Now I'm doing top left. There we go. And now bottom left. Okay, you're good to go. The thing to keep in mind here is as you're pushing the sleeve of the Litz wires onto the pins of the cartridge, you want to make sure you don't bend that sleeve. These things are made of brass. They're really lightweight, copper, stuff like that. And if you bend them and you go to straighten them back out, they sometimes will break. And repairing these in the field or even here in the store can be real tricky. So that's on. We're now going to go with our second screw. VPI comes with these nice little stainless steel washers you want to put on the end of the screw. It's the other short one. All right, so we're loosely on the end of this guy. So this is it's called a LEMO connector here. This is the plug that VPI uses to attach their tone arm to the chassis here. So a little red dot that goes in front. This guy locks in place like that. Now this is connected. If you have the unit pivot tone arm, you can twist these one way or the other to kind of affect how the tone arm drops into the record groove. But it seems as VPI is not doing a lot of unit pivot stuff anymore, so just a basic connection there. The next thing you want to do in setting up a cartridge, at least what I do, is always try to get an idea of where the tracking force needs to be. Sometimes you can have too much tracking force, and when you place the diamond on your scale, you can have like 10 grams of tracking force, and doing that you can sometimes spring the suspension of that cantilever. So I like to beforehand see if I can't get to a point where this thing, so this is way too far, I'm going to back this up some, and I'm real careful to make sure that this doesn't And usually what I'll do is I get it to a point where it floats level with the top of the platter. So you can see there where it's, you know, kind of zero buoyancy. So yeah, at this point this thing is going to say 0 grams because there's no pressure pushing down on the Ebi Khumar. Tracking weight on this guy is 1.7 to 2.3 grams. So I usually try to find a space in the middle. You don't want to go too low, you don't want to go too high, and then you want to listen to it. You know, there's no one setting for a turntable or a cartridge or load impedance when you're dealing with moving coil cartridges. There's variables, and it's really your preferences, how you like the music to sound, the rest of your system that determine where within those ranges this needs to go. So 1.3, so we got 1.7 to 2.3, so that's a 5 gram differential. Let's start with like 2.1 grams. So with VPI, they're very kind and generous. They give you a stylus force gauge, or a stylus force, scale, so you can measure it. I use this thing all the time. I don't like to try to guess. I did a turntable the other day, had it set at 2 grams according to the ring on the back of the tone arm. The thing was not even close, so it's easy to not get it set right. So I'm going to move this thing forward now. Let's go forward just a couple of twists. I got some downward pressure here. So in the back is a cueing arm. We're going to cue this thing up. We're going to bring this thing over. We're going to gently drop this down onto the stylus force gauge, and I'm tracking at 0.28 grams. That'll get us nowhere for playing records, so we definitely need to add some weight there, but that's easy to do. So We want to rotate this again forward. And take your time. You know, there's no rush to getting this right. As the great coach John Wooden once said, if you don't have time to do it right, when we have time to do it over. So let's see here. Yeah, we're at 1.12, so we're getting there. Like I said, let's go for about 2.1 on this. So 1.63. 2.3, 2.03. So let's go for perfection. 2.12. Close, but not close enough. .0506. It was said 2.1, then dropped back to 2.09. We'll go with this for now because I know you guys got other things to do. So with this part set up closely, we'll make some other adjustments moving forward. We want to go back to our handy dandy Tonearm jig. Put this guy back on carefully. And I'm going to try to stay on this side, so it's going to be kind of awkward to do because usually I'd be around this end. But we want to cue this up. We want to move this Tonearm over, and we want to see how close we are to the diamond on the end of the cantilever hitting that point. I'm gonna tell you that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but we're right there. So lucky me. Usually you gotta do a little bit of adjustment this way. Also, we want to make sure that it's adjusted this way or this way. So if you don't mind me walking in front of you here, so I'll take a quick peek at this. Yeah, spot on again. So again, when you have that cantilever pointing down and you've got the lines on that groove, if your cartridge is askew this way, the diamond will be where it should be, but the cantilever is not parallel with those lines. You want to get it to the point where the diamond hits the drop point, and as you look down those lines, that cantilever is lined up with it. There are other tools you can use. I use a Wally Tools protractor with a reflective surface to it. That's really helpful for determining that angle. But if you're excited and you just got this turntable home, you want to get up and run and impress your friends, this VPI Tonearm jig will get you quite a long way. So let's go ahead and cue this guy up one more time. We'll bring it over here. And now what we want to do is we want to secure these screws because they aren't tightened fully. You want to hold the stylus or the cartridge body so it doesn't move. And you want to get these things fairly tight. Again, I wanted to use all the pieces that were supplied in the VPI box. They literally send you everything you need to set this turntable up. I do have a ratcheted Allen head wrench I use for this. It's a Torx wrench, so you get the right torque on it, but this will do just fine. And then the last adjustment you want to do is adjusting the VTA. So this tower you can rotate upwards and downwards. And the intent is to adjust the stylus rake angle. So you have a cantilever, on the end of that cantilever is a diamond. There's an angle that you want to ideally have that diamond set at. It's roughly 92 and a half degrees. That's based on the angle of the diamond of the lathe that cut the grooves in the master record. To do that properly, you need a microscope, you need some software, you plot it out, you can do some adjustments that way. I didn't bring that stuff today, so we'll have to do it like you would do it when you get it home. You want to basically take this thing. I use the stylus force gauge that it comes with, You want to be careful, because if you look at this tone arm, it's a 3D printed tone arm, so it's tapered. So you can't use the tone arm as a reference. And usually what I do when I'm just trying to get it set as best as I can, so I try to get the flat surface. So in this case, the head of the cartridge is flat. The top of the cartridge is flat. So I try to get that parallel with the top of the record. So one of the things you can do with the stylus force gauge is you can plant this guy on the stylus force gauge, and then looking down it this way, you can see if it's parallel or not. So you guys can't see it from there, but if you look at it, if this is the surface of the record, this cartridge is sitting up like this. So what we want to do is we want to back this thing down like this. So let's pretend this is a $20,000 cartridge. You don't want to do anything crazy with it. Let's cue it up. Let's pull it back. And then from here, let's use this guy. Make sure these are loose. And we want to go down. It's at 82. Not that that means anything. We'll back it down to 75. You can see how easy it is to make these adjustments. So make sure your arm is cued up. Bring it back over. Set it down. Give it a good look at. We're closer, but still too high. So I think if we move this thing down to 70, that's going to be a good spot for it. Let's drop this down here again. No, I think a little bit more. So went down to 65. So again, what I'm trying to do is get the top of that cartridge parallel with the you know, the basically the top of the platter. Not like this, not like this. So let's see what we got here. A little more. Bring it down to 60. I think we got close, man. Yeah, that's good. So I'd put a record on it. You know, listen to some records, make sure when it's on a record it seems to be tracking flat. As you listen to it, don't be afraid to come over here and bump it up a couple of degrees. See what that does, see how it affects the bass, see how it affects the high frequencies. Maybe turn it back down. When I had the Khumar in here originally, I did that with a Techniques turntable we had on the floor. And over the course of 30 minutes on a Saturday night after work, I had that thing dialed in and it was sounding absolutely phenomenal. So I look forward to doing some listening tests here. We'll probably have you guys back. We'll revisit this setup, talk more about the other pieces in the system. But I would tell you at this point, we're ready to connect power, ready to connect ground and interconnect. Ready to make some music. The turntable comes with a power cord. The turntable comes with a ground wire. The turntable does not come with interconnects. I would tell you that at this level, a upgraded power cord, a hot rod set of interconnects, and a good ground cable would be very much worth the investment. These are things, again, we can help you out with. There's a lot of choices out there, but I've had the occasion to do that with a lot of the tables here in the store and in my own table at home. And it's a great way to make your system sound good. You know, no matter how good it sounds, you're gonna wake up one day and go, what can I do to make this thing sound better, you know? You can buy a new turntable, you can buy a new cartridge, you can buy cables, you can buy a periphery. Those are kind of some fun accessories. So, but you know, in not much time, we got this thing out of the box, plugged in, tuned in, and ready to play.